All right, everyone, we're here for the live stream on a Friday night. So this is our first Friday evening live stream, and we have a real awesome guest that we're going to be talking with this evening. So a few weeks back, I did a video on what I called the prepper drone, which is basically a fairly inexpensive drone, the DJI Mavic Mini, which cost around $400, $400 to $500, and they have a fly more package with it. And I wanted to use it for emergency preparedness purposes, for things like neighborhood surveillance, if there was some kind of natural disaster, and I needed to do a surveillance of the neighborhood to see how things were looking. I was thinking that I could leverage this drone for this. I haven't wanted to use a drone for multiple years because it was kind of out of my price range. But now with today, you can get very inexpensive drones that are fairly feature rich. The problem with the DJI Mavic Mini that initially with me is that it didn't support any kind of autonomous flight capabilities at the time, as far as having waypoints where I could have it go, hey, go down the street, go up the block, go over above my house, and not have to control it manually, just in case if it was an emergency situation. I was worried that I couldn't do that. But after some research, I found out about Dronelink, which is an autonomous flight software that you could pay for a basic package for the $20 entry fee, and basically it allows you to give you a ton of capabilities for setting up autonomous flight. And basically you could have your drone do anything without you having to actually control it manually. And so that's what we're going to be focusing in on this one. We have Eric Goldstein from Dronelink. He's the general business manager for Dronelink, and we're super excited to have him on. Let's make sure that things are going in the chat room. All right, cool. Sounds like people are saying hello. So without further ado, I'm going to be bringing on Eric. So let's see. Let's bring you on right now. There we go. All right.
Hey, guys.
Hey, so welcome to Eric Goldstein from Dronelink. And again, I'm really excited to talk to you about autonomous drone flight. So,
no, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we could kickstart. Some people might have watched the video. If you haven't watched the video, you should have watched the video before the live stream, but let's assume that you don't. Maybe we could talk a little bit about your background, Eric, and about Dronelink in a more description than what I've just provided for the introduction.
Sure. So I got into drones about 6-7 years ago. I bought at the time something called the Phantom FC40, which looks similar to something like this. This is the newer version. This is something called the Phantom 4 Pro. But I flew it manually and honestly crashed it in the first 3 days of having it. Learned how to fly it manually, got better and better at it. But I was always fascinated. I've been a photography guy, technology guy, and got more and more interested in autonomous flights. And there's a couple software packages out there, a program called Dji. There's a few others that were on the Android side. But I learned about a product called Autopilot. It was released by a company called Auto Flight Logic. And honestly, if you go back, I could point you to a video that I did almost 5.5 years ago. It was the first time I flew autonomously, where I basically I had the software fly from A to B and look at C, and then do an orbit. And that was it. I was hooked. The ability to have it do all the stuff I was doing manually, but do it really, really hyper smooth was amazing. So got involved, met the CEO, started doing videos for them. And his company got bought by a company called Anker. He left there. And then he came back to me about 1.5 years ago. And we started discussing what we really wanted to do with the next level of drone software. And that's what Dronelink really came from. So he's kind of the brains behind it. I'm much more on the marketing side. I've done 45 different videos for him and for Dronelink, but it's gone from just kind of this basic zip line or orbit to things that Cliff's got involved in, kind of the waypoint functionality, to very, very advanced things that you can now do with the drone. Just not only sitting in front of an iPad, but literally sitting in front of your computer, program it all, look at it all, troubleshoot it all, and then just literally put the drone down, push a button, and it flies. It gives you this amazing footage. So I know there's a mixture of people that know and don't know drones, so I'm happy to kind of talk through drones and autonomous stuff, whatever you guys want to talk about.
It's going to be great. Yeah, I think I imagine a lot of the people that are listening now and will be listening later, they might be new to drones and might be looking for that first step to purchase their one. And I mean, again, I highly recommend the Dronelink autonomous flight software with the Mavic Mini, because it's so inexpensive. You could it's cost less than an iPhone basically to get a setup for the package. And man, when the Dronelink is takes control of that device and starts flying, it's pretty amazing just seeing how much better it actually flies the drone than when I could fly it, which is pretty exciting. So, so is the LeechD? I saw someone in the comments already. So how does Dronelink compare to LeechD as far as the options go?
So they're similar, and it depends a little bit on whether you have. So let me just kind of give people a little bit of range of size, right? So for those that aren't really familiar with, so this is what Cliff was talking about. This is a Mavic Mini, so very small. They're kind of fold out drones. So expanded out, looks next to my head, right?
Very cool. Yeah.
That's a Mini. This is what's called. This is a Mavic 2 Pro, which again looks similar, but obviously is larger, right? So you can kind of compare these two guys next to each other. That's a little feel for this. Is so price wise, like $500. This $1,500. So this is more solid. It's got a Hasselblad camera in it. It's a more solid camera. This is they haven't come out with a new one. There's a lot of talk about when the new Mavic 3 is coming out, but I've had this one for a while. This is honestly my go-to for anything that I do videography wise. It's this guy, and then there's this, which is the Phantom 4 Pro, which is even a little bit older. And then just to kind of give you an idea how big it gets, this is what's called an Inspire 2.
Wow.
This guy is
that's gnarly.
This is a lot. So back to your question. So when I was involved with autopilot, I knew about Litchi. I have Litchi. I've flown it. Litchi and autopilot and Dronelink. When you don't look at the Mini, kind of do similar things. They all fly autonomous missions. They all do orbits. They all have powerful functionality. Both Litchi and Dronelink both allow you to create missions in front of your PC. Both of them have both Android and iOS functionality. There's little, when you start getting into the meat of it, there's little differences that I don't know how much I want to go into the weeds on it, but the biggest thing that's different right now, what gave Dronelink a little bit of a head start, was the way that DJI released their API or their SDK to support this prevented Litchi from being able to do waypoints with this. So Litchi actually released support for the Mavic Mini, so it does a lot of the great things that Litchi does. Follow, some focus type functionality. It does, but what it doesn't do is waypoints. So as of now, Dronelink is the only software for both iOS and Android that supports waypoints. And there's a reason why that Litchi getting to waypoints is probably not going to happen very soon. There's some work that has to be done either on the SDK side or a huge change on the Litchi side. But if you want to do, I always tell people, if you want to do waypoints with your Mini, get Dronelink. If you want to do active track and follow, for now, I would say get Litchi. I'd say get both. They're cheap enough to get both. I expect Dronelink to have focus and follow soon. We're expecting to have that rolled out in the next month. If you have this or this, so you do one of these guys both do waypoints on both Litchi and Dronelink. So you can't go too wrong. There's a lot of little differences. Some of it is just personal preference. I find that the Litchi software is probably closer to the DJI Go or the DJI Fly software. The Dronelink software tends to take a little bit more learning, but it does more. It's more powerful. It has more flexibility. For a quick example is with Litchi, you can do an orbit and that's it. Or you can do a waypoint mission and that's it. With Dronelink, you could do an orbit, a waypoint mission, a mapping mission, a scanning mission, all in the same mission, have it start, stop, continue. Litchi doesn't allow you to do that. So there's benefits to both, but I think honestly, as cheap as they are, buy them both. I have them both. So
yeah. So for those unfamiliar with Dronelink, if you're just tuning in right now, let's see, I have my screen over here. So this is basically what the Dronelink software will look like. I'm in a random neighborhood in Seattle here right now for this. So what he's referring to on the orbit, that basically means that you have, if you could see this here. So let's say this is our house over here. The orbit, it's going to circle the house pointing towards it. And you could control what angle that the drone is actually looking at, which I found to be a really cool feature for, again, this channel focuses on emergency preparedness. So if I really wanted to scout out what was going on outside of my home, for whatever reason, that was the fun component that I found with the Dronelink. But the waypoints, based for those in layman's terms, I guess, or for those unfamiliar, it's basically setting up points. So on here on the Dronelink software, we could set up various components. We could do a component here like this, and let's say we're going to do our orbit, and then we basically put it here, and we have a radius of a certain thing, and we could let's just put it over here for done. Okay, that's our orbit. So basically, Dronelink would be controlling the drone to circle around. Let's say that this is our house over here, and then with regard to the waypoints for those, that's down over here. We could set up a waypoint, and basically we could set up various points of it so that it could go to. So anyway, again, since I'm trying to focus on emergency stuff, it's so nice. It's so cool to be able to have this all done autonomously, and so I could actually focus on other things during an emergency situation. So just for those that are unfamiliar with Dronelink and kind of what the software is looking like right now, I'm going to just take a quick little peek at the comment section really quick here. Okay, so here's one from Prep for It. Hey, Eric, if you have a very advanced drone, do you need a specific license, or do you need an all-in-one encompassing one?
So what country is that in? United States or outside?
I'm going to assume United States, unless it says otherwise.
So United States, the restrictions are you need a 107 license if you're flying commercially. So if you're doing anything for money, you're supposed to have a 107 license. If you're flying as a hobbyist, you don't. As long as the drone is under 55 pounds, then you actually can fly it as a hobbyist. Interestingly enough, I actually took my 107 license 4 years ago, almost to the day, in a week or two. You have to renew it every 2 years. I renewed it 2 years ago. I'm actually going in for my renewal tomorrow. So yeah. It's kind of a pain in the ass of a test. It's not, you have to study for it. It's learning a whole bunch of stuff that honestly is, I would say 50% of it is useful. 50% of it is stuff that you probably never ever use that relate back to flying around an airport and how airports work. But it's a good thing to know how to do. So yeah, officially, if you're flying commercially for business reasons, you're supposed to have a 107 license.
Yeah. See a few more comments over here. This is from Cascaded Dispatch. If I program a path that takes too long on the battery, will the drone come back to life to save the battery, or will Dronelink override that?
So great question. Almost any drone that you fly, whether you're flying with Dronelink, Litchi, or any of these other things, it's built into the SDK that if you get too far away, it knows how far you're away, and it will force the drone to come back. Or I take that back. It will try to override and force the drone to come back. You could override the override and have it crash if you really want to, but for the most part, it will. It knows how much battery's left. You can see on your screen how much battery's left, and if it gets down to a point where you're 100 feet or 1,000 feet away, it will try to come back. It will come back and it will land where you are automatically. So
yeah. And one of the limitations with DJI Mavic Mini is that it has a lack of sensors overall, where if I want to run it into a building, it's going to run into the building because I told it to. So this kind of relates to this next question here from Gene, as far as can I switch to manual control if you see something you want to take a closer look at? And I say yes, because I've done it before, but I'll let you
Yeah, no, it's actually an interesting question on a couple levels, because it's a pro and a con with the way the Dronelink works. It's the most common question that I get with Dronelink is, can you fly with the Dronelink software beyond its range? So so it loses connection with the controller, will it continue on? So the way I answer that is, if you were flying it manually and you flew it beyond the range, what would it do? Well, it would kick into return home and return home. If you dropped your controller and you lost control, it would return to home on you. Now, Litchi, going back to the other question, Litchi allows you to create waypoint missions for the Mavic 2 and the Phantom 4 that actually stores the mission on the drone. The Mini does not. So it has to have connectivity between the controller and the drone for the software to work, and if it loses connection, it'll come back. So to answer the question about manual control, if you're flying along and it gets to a point and I want to see something, you can stop the autonomous mission, look around, and then continue the mission along. With Litchi, you can't really do that because it's loaded the mission on there in a waypoint mode, and it's just flying along. The other thing that I'll tell you, it's kind of interesting, and one of the throwbacks to the autopilot days, and one of the things that I'm really looking forward to, and I think is going to come, is there was a big distinction in autopilot between what I would call giving the software the ability to control the drone and the camera. the camera only or the drone only? And one of the reasons I really like that, particularly for what you guys are doing, what you're interested in, is I used to like, with autopilot, to let the drone fly from point A to point B, but then let me manually control the camera. And to the point where I could literally hold the controller or the iPad and look around. So the drone is flying from A to B, and I could just look like I was sitting on the camera or sitting on the drone itself. So it's a great way to do search and rescue. It's a great way to kind of to scan around, and that is coming. And then the other side of even taking to the next level where we've had drones falling, other moving objects, or even drones falling. Drones are all very capable with, and they'll be coming with the next couple of releases.
Well, I mean, that sounds like an awesome feature. So then you could basically set up a set of waypoints and just let the drone just worry about flying, and you worry about looking around and exploring different things. That sounds so cool.
For those, I don't know if people have seen the headset. There's actually they're called the Dji Goggles. I can go grab them to give you an idea. But when you fly with the Dji Goggles in the Mavic 2 or the Phantom 4, you can actually put this on, and it gives you that same thing. You can manually fly around and then look around like you're sitting literally in the drone itself. That's not there yet for the Mavic Mini or the Dronelink software, but again, it is coming. It's coming soon.
Very cool. Yeah, a special shout out to Zara for the $7.77 to the super chat. Thank you very much. I think that's going into the Dronelink fund for Bionic Madness, who's helping over there. So that's going into the fund so he could get Bernie his own drone. So
good.
Cool. Mm-hmm. So there was a question there as far as what's the cheapest drone someone could have that could use Dronelink?
The cheapest one is this Mavic Mini.
Yep. Cool. Okay.
And it's interesting. I think it's a good common question because I think there's a lot when you see people when people come up to me and say, I got my kid a drone and I'm trying to learn to fly it. I always ask them how much they spent on it. Yeah. And typically, if you've spent under $200, it does not have GPS. That's kind of the kicker point is when it gets over $200-300, it has GPS functionality so that I always call it a tripod in the sky. If you could fly it, put it down, and put the controller down, and the drone stays there, you've got probably a $300 to $500 drone in your hands. This little guy is better than the drone that I flew 5-6 years ago. It's rock solid in the air. It really flies very, very nicely. It's honestly pretty damn amazing how well it flies and how far it will get away from you. How far it'll let you fly and still maintain control, and still has a pretty amazing picture. The only downside to it is that it is because it's so light. And interestingly enough, it's actually under 0.55 pounds. That's why they made it this way. You can actually see on this thing it's 259. It's a very light drone. It's a little more susceptible to the winds, and it doesn't have the sensors that you're talking about. So if you've pointed at a wall and you fly in a wall, it'll march happily into the wall for you.
Yeah, I was always nervous when Dronelink was flying around my drone and I'm not touching it at all, and I'm just worried that I'm going to lose it at some point. But it does exactly what you program it to do. And with the software, it has a cool feature where basically you could play within the software and it shows like the route and what it would actually do. So before you actually take it on the field, which I thought was a pretty cool feature on there too. Actually, it's an awesome feature. I have a question here. So Eric, when you go out, what's like your EDC? So EDC stands for everyday carry. What's your drone? If you were to go out at any time, like what would be your drone kit that you would have with you?
So this is my typical, when I bring out my Mavic 2, which is my go-to drone, this is typically what I bring. I bring this. This has everything that I typically need to fly, regardless of what I'm doing. It has some batteries in there. It has the controller. It has some lenses and a couple other things, attachments that I need. This is pretty much everything that I need. I have a bag that I can carry my Phantom 4 in, and this guy can pretty much fit my back pocket. It's so small. The Inspire 2 has a case over there the size of a gigantic suitcase, so that's a little bit. That's definitely more of a monster to carry. I don't fly the Inspire as much, only because it's just it takes longer to set up. It's again, with this thing I can throw in the back of my car and in my trunk with everything else. I've traveled back in the days where we could actually fly on airplanes. I used to put that in my backpack and bring it onto the plane with me, just because I didn't have to use up an extra suitcase for it. So yeah, it's a pretty comfortable thing to be able to carry now.
This is I'm not sure about this particular question here. Can a drone be hacked in mid-flight?
I think the quick answer is probably not. I mean, there are security things that the government's trying to that people have done to try to prevent people from flying drones into stadiums or in no-fly zones. I've seen things where they're kind of I don't want to call it a gun, but it's basically shooting a signal-headed drone that disrupts the connectivity between the drone and the controller, brings it down. I've seen things that shoot gigantic nets, for lack of a better word, that take drones down. But I have yet to hear of anybody actually being able to hack, particularly the DJI drones. I know some of the racing drones that are out there that are a little bit more tied to the 2.4 and 5.8 signals. Those are a little more hackable. If anybody's seen kind of the racing drones that are out there, they share signals, so you can actually be at an event, wear goggles, and see what the racers are seeing. It's much harder to, if somebody's flying around on this thing, to hack into what, I don't know anybody that's done that's hacked into a signal. You could share it, but I don't think you can hack into it.
Yeah, a lot of the people that watch my my channel, they're preppers, and they always say, "Oh, if I see a drone, I'm going to shoot that thing down." And you described a couple of things that sounds like something Batman might have, as far as a net and some kind of ray gun. How economical are those for someone that would want to have something like that?
Would want to shoot it down? $1 billion.
Okay.
I don't want any of you guys shooting down my drones.
Okay.
Outside of the fact that I don't like tell people what to do and not to. It is officially against the law. These are flight. These are it's if you do it, it is against the law to shoot down a drone of this type. Also, you typically need a pretty good shot if the thing's pretty far up there.
Well, they move so fast. Like when I'm flying it, I mean, those things could go fairly quickly. You have to be kind of a dead shot on it. So as far as like, because this is a kind of a, people always talk about that, particularly when I guess I'd ask you about that. As far as so legally, like when you're up in the air, even though you're above someone's house, that's not necessarily their air. Is that how it works?
I mean, there's arguments both ways. I mean, like I would, if I owned a drone, if I was to you guys and I owned a drone, I would not be flying 50 feet over a neighbor's house and looking at the pool. There's a bunch of videos. The interesting thing that you heard, I've been hearing this for years and years as I've flown, about people using it for spying and looking through windows. And I will tell you that as good as the drones have been, they are horrible spying devices.
It sounds like a swarm of bees.
They're very loud. You're typically 200-300 feet up in the air. You can't see very well. Even like this, I will say, like this Inspire 2, there's a very expensive. You can have this. This is a $4,000 or $5,000 drone by itself. You can put a $4,000 or $5,000 drone or a camera on this thing, and then you can start getting into more powerful zooming. But I mean, to be honest, I mean, a DSLR like this with a zoom lens, you'll get 10 times better, spying capability than you were, if you're trying to quietly spy on somebody else. This is just, it's honestly, it's a terrible device for spying. It's great for videography and landscaping and real estate. I think, even, for what you're doing, if you're scanning your neighborhood and you're trying to keep a track of a person, but there was again, I saw a couple of videos that were done that were pretty well done, where they had drone 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet in the air, and they had a person. And they said, "Can you name whether this is a male or a female?" Much less the type of shoes that person's wearing, and it's difficult to tell. They're just not designed for that.
Yeah. So again, we're talking with Eric Goldstein from Dronelink. If you're just tuning on right now, so. You watched the video that I had, which was really cool that you contacted with regarding it. Do you have any other recommendations that you would see for how this could be used for someone that's into emergency preparedness, into neighborhood watches, into any kind of civil unrest type things that maybe weren't covered in that video?
So you were showing it using in an orbit or a waypoint, which I think is good. I think the other thing that's really nice with Dronelink is it has a mapping capability. So it kind of you set up an area that you want it to cover, and it'll automatically set up a path to cover that entire region. So it's designed to create these gigantic orthomosaic images, but it can be just as well used to take to do scanning or search and rescue. And I've used it in the past for things like that. Good.
I was going to say, yeah, I was over at SHOT Show a couple years ago, and they were featuring a drone that was used for kind of a CSI mapping, where they were able to create like a 3-dimensional image of this crime scene using what you described there, as far as going through a grid with the drone, which I thought was pretty sweet. You were about to say something else, though.
No, that's a great point, and that's actually exactly what I've done. I've done entire golf courses with, it took an hour and a half, 2,000 plus images. Typically, if you're doing 2D images, you have the camera looking straight down and just kind of going back and forth. The images you're talking about that are 3D are typically done with having the camera at a slight angle and then having it go one way, horizontally, and then going back again, vertically. There's actually a couple companies. If you go to the Dronelink site, that are actually really focusing in on using Dronelink for that. I have not done as much 3D mapping on our sister user group page. We've got kind of an official and unofficial, but on our unofficial group, these guys were involved with us from the very beginning. I know he's been doing a lot with mapping as well, the 3D mapping, and doing some really cool stuff. So. Yeah, definitely possible with drone. Even with this, I think the other thing that's kind of interesting, and I've been learning about this as our product's been kind of spreading worldwide, is this product, because of its weight and how difficult. The reason why I asked about the question about getting licensed, some of the other countries, they make it very difficult to be certified to fly a drone if the drone weighs more than a certain weight. This doesn't. So there's a huge group in Italy right now that have really latched on to the Mini and Dronelink, because it can do mapping and waypoints and flying around and not force them to get pilot's licenses, which is pretty interesting. It's an interesting way of kind of taking advantage of the product and the drone.
Wow. So we have a comment over here in the super chat from Noel Hernandez. He gave $9.99 to ask the question: can I use my old DJI Spark with Dronelink?
You can. DJI Spark will work with Dronelink. The only thing I found with the Spark is that the camera on this thing, to do some of them, you'll see this camera actually tilts up a little bit, like this, the tiny bit. So we have found the Spark does not do that. So we've had some issues with some people that have Sparks that are running it where it gives an error midway through the flight. So it kind of depends. As long as you have the camera looking forward or down, you won't have a problem with it. But some of the ones where where Dronelink tells the camera to look up, it'll give an error and it won't be able to complete that mission.
Well, here's a question from North Tacoma that says, anyone else have their view disabled when Air Force One has flown over?
So I've never had my view disabled. There are what are called no-fly zones or TFRs that have been put in place where a temporary flight restriction. Where I live in Florida and Trump comes down here and there's a big huge radius from when he's in Mar-a-Lago. So actually, when he is here, I cannot take off from my backyard. When he's here, I can't. So it's not so much what the view is disabled; it's more what the drone being able to take off, and that's tied into the DJI software itself and the SDK itself. Because
I have my drone set up specifically for emergency purposes to use Dronelink, and I have a dedicated smartphone for that one. Mm-hmm. Theoretically, if there was an emergency situation, it could be possible then that it wouldn't even let me take off with Dronelink due to is that kind of control capable to happen?
So there's a couple different levels of control of when you can or cannot fly. So the Trump example is a TFR. You're not going to be able to fly. Stadium, it's not going to let you take off. Flying near airports, you can get waivers to do certain things, and I fly. Within certain types of airspace, you get them. You basically have to. There's an override you have to do within DJI. Typically, you have to provide your name, your email address, your phone number. It sends a text back to you. It confirms who you are, and you confirm that you have the rights to be able to do that, and you're going to fly safely, and it'll open it up. It'll let you fly. So there's a little bit of difference as to what you're doing. My overall advice for all this stuff is fly safe. I was just watching some videos today that there's some people that have recently been doing a few things that are stupid, flying near a medical helicopter. I saw one. There was a guy that landed a Mavic 2 and a stadium in Chicago, and there was another one where I was flying. So it's just stupid. I mean, it hurts the industry. Eventually, the FAA will step in and knock, cause problems. So,
So don't be stupid with these.
Don't be stupid. There are people that try to push things to a certain degree. I'm not in that camp. I tend to try to, I want to fly within the rules. I'm 107 certified. I don't want to lose my certification. I don't want to see the industry go away. I make money off of flying, and the FAA. I mean, I flew before there was 107. There was there was another type of certification that came around before 107 that was even harder to get. So 107 was kind of a compromise between the drone pilots and the FAA to allow us to fly commercially. I don't want dumb people to take that away from me.
Yeah. Really quick, I was just going to show. So on the drone, if you guys aren't familiar with Dronelink, make sure you go to the website, dronelink.com. They have their pricing options over here as well. I went with the basic one, which is basically the hobbyist plan. Oops, it's not that. So you could go, there it is, the basic hobbyist. So you could go, let's see, open up. There we go. Basic is the one-time fee, which is what I did because I'm just basically on the fly one. We also have the premium plan and then the elite plan. So if you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, we're going to keep talking with Eric Goldstein from Dronelink. But this is the website that you go to, and it's super. Eric is the one that made all the videos. If you go to YouTube and search Dronelink, there's all these tutorial videos, and it's your voice, so it's cool to be able to finally talk with you when I've watched so many of your videos to try to ramp up on how to use this, because it is kind of a steep learning curve.
Hey, by the way, if you show that screen again, I just want to show people one thing.
Yeah.
If you just scroll down a little bit,
okay,
and you'll see the compare plans. So
yeah,
if you're wondering what the difference between the 2040 and $80 plan is. And just to be clear, that's one time, so you're not paying per month. There's a compare plan right in the middle of the screen there.
Yep.
So below the premium. So that compares all the features in the basic, premium, and elite. The biggest difference as you start to move to the $40 plan is the integration with AirMap, some of the mapping capabilities, the restriction zone, and the terrain follow. That's kind of the big jump. For premium, elite tends to be more for some of the programmers that want to create their own functions, and a few other. It gives you a little bit more advanced support level. So for the
and people are doing some really advanced things with Dronelink from what I've seen as far as building mapping and all sorts of stuff. It's pretty fascinating stuff. This is a question I've got before, and it'd be fun to ask you this one. This is from Ben. Can you set up a charger like a robot vacuum cleaner so that it docks and recharges?
The quick answer is I know people are working on that. I don't know anybody that's done it with a Mini, a Phantom 4, or not with these drones, because I mean these, like this guy, the battery is that. So trying to have this thing land and charge is not. They all have something like that. This is the Mini here. The battery comes out here. So they're all coming out of. There's no easy way to have it dock and charge. I do know that some of the agricultural applications with other companies' drones are being set up to do just like that, where you can kind of have it come back into a barn and land and charge and send it right back out there again. Just the DJI drones currently, at least the hobbyists or the prosumer type drones from DJI don't do that.
Is anyone that one of the things I was looking at is programming an Arduino board or a Raspberry Pi to then kick off Dronelink, to kick off the drone to fly. Is anyone doing those kind of things? Like if they wanted to have it take off when they're not even take off when the sensor goes off or something like that?
I don't know anybody that's done that with Dronelink. I wouldn't be surprised if there's people pushing the limits there. We've got some really great users right now that are building functions. I mean, one of the things that I think really makes Dronelink strong and unique is that you can create your own functions, and it's very customizable and it's very shareable. So what I mean by that is I could sit here, I could create a mission here. You could I could share the mission with you. You could pull it into your own Dronelink account, put it in your own location, share it. I could see you flying. You could have other people modify it. You could fly it. You could start flying with one drone with an Android device, and then move it over and fly with a different drone with an iOS device. So we don't charge extra from drone to drone. We don't charge extra from iOS to Android like some of the other guys do. So it really does give you what we really try to push, a shared, open philosophy with the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things I was hoping to ask you. Really, first couple. Let's see, we got Daniel over here. Thanks for the super chat. When will the new site and store be up? I'm still working on it. There's some revisions. It's not looking as perfect as what I want it to do, and I want it to look perfect before going live with it. Again, we're talking with Eric from Dronelink. I recently did a video called the Prepper Drone, and we touched base, and we're really excited to have him on this live stream. There was a question that I was hoping to get. You already answered the one with regard to Android versus iOS. It's supported on both of them, and you don't have to pay for separate ones on it. So there's one from Rachel that I was hoping to get to. This was is there a website or other resources that you could recommend for someone brand new to drones looking for a good basic intro to drone types class?
That's a good question. There's a bunch. I mean, it's a good starting point, I would say. Before you do anything with autonomous flight, learn to fly the thing manually. You really should know how to fly this thing so that if Dronelink crashes, and it has been known to crash, that you know how to fly it back manually. I think that's a key thing to know what to do. Otherwise, you're not panicking. I mean, I give you, the basic advice for learning to fly a drone is find a big open field and then fly. Don't fly around trees or people, and just start slow. There are basic modes within the drone. There are if you search for drone intro to drones classes, there are a bunch of them. I've done webinars, and I've done live training for. I did a great class for actually Dateline NBC. That was fun with some guys that came down. I did some firefighters that came down. That was a lot of fun. So whether you want to do something, I know there's live training like that, and there's plenty of videos on YouTube as well. I would just search for something.
Cool, thank you. And you talked about this earlier with regard to having the public and private plans. So theoretically, if, again, my audience is largely people into emergency preparedness and preppers and worried about emergency events, could you theoretically have a public set of routes or modules that anyone, it's like if I set one up, I could distribute it out to everyone that has access to this public
exactly right,
mission?
Yeah. Depending on, you could set it up so in your neighborhood, if you set up a mission, and like if there's 5 other people in your development that all had the same drone, you could share the mission. They could all fly the exact same mission whenever they wanted to. So
for my entire audience, then I could say, hey guys, I created all these missions that are specifically for emergency preparedness type purposes, and if they want to, they could go and download that mission or to get the same mission and have it instantly go on their drone as well if they have the DJI Mavic Mini, for example.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Well, that is really cool. I need to look into that. Hopefully people would be interested in that, and I could share that with my audience.
And to be clear, if it's not like if it's not A to A, so it's like if you're talking about like a good example would be, so for me, I do a lot of video. I do a lot of stuff for real estate. So a lot of times we have to do what are called cardinal images around a house. So I've got a house, and they want me to take a picture here, every angle around at 100 feet, maybe at 200 feet, do an orbit, and then do images like this. So that maybe I've got a house that's this big, and then a little later I got to do a house that's this big. I can take that same mission, copy it over to a location, expand it out, it'll do the same mission, and have everything be perfect. And I can look at it all here and plan it all out on my PC here and share it. One of the things that I've done for a couple of the commercial jobs, which was really useful, was I had a guy tell me, I want you to fly and do this shopping center or this location. So I'd look at it, I'd scan it all out here sitting at my desk, I'd plan it, I could videotape it or screen capture it all here on my PC. I can actually create the mission and export it out to Google Earth so they can see it in a 3D environment, capture that on a screen grab, and then send them the video and say, this is what I am looking at shooting. Do the angles look right? Do the videos look right? Do you want to be further away, closer? Tell me what you want to do. And then I can modify the mission before I even go out there. So I'm not wasting battery going out there and filming something and go, nah, I really wanted to I want you to be this angle, that angle. So you could really do a lot of planning either back and forth or even collaboratively. One of the really cool things you can do with Dronelink is you and I can both be looking at the same mission at the same time. And as I make changes to where those waypoints are, the orbit or the look and feel, it literally will show up on your screen at the exact same time. So that really is, I think one of the big, huge differences of Dronelink is that it's got that collaborative sharing capability, the ability to create, to use what we call components, which are, building blocks of missions, whether it's an orbit, a waypoint mission, a mapping mission, or a cardinal images, or literally different types of shots, like a trucking shot where you wanted to kind of look this way, or a flyaway shot, or a droney type shot, or all these different things are really just components that can be created and replicated from mission to mission.
Wow, so cool. Yeah, I think I definitely like the idea of having. Again, we're talking with Eric from Dronelink. So make sure you go to dronelink.com and check it out. There's a lot of different plans over there. There's a lot of cool capabilities. I like Dronelink for neighborhood watch, just for general neighborhoods. If you have 4 neighbors that all had a DJI Mavic Mini with Dronelink software, you could basically have you could be sharing the same missions to do a neighborhood watch patrol once at the top of each hour or something like that. I think that's very cool. And then also for grid down type situations, there's an emergency, or maybe a fire happened. I know the fires down in California is a big thing, and I would think theoretically the drone could be kind of hovering and seeing how far away it is from your house. So it seems like it has a lot of value for that too. And Dronelink could just do it all for you without you even having to touch the device. So
yeah, cool. I had one of the thought to the person who was asking about how to learn to fly a drone. One thing that I did when I started a long time ago that was very helpful for me was they have drone user groups. I was able to join a couple of drone user groups very early on, and that was very helpful for me, just to kind of learn from people that are flying, and kind of over my shoulder, and as when you just first get those controls in your hands, giving you that comfort factor that you're not going to crash the thing. So I would recommend that as much as any of the videos, just getting out and flying with some people that you can trust. It's a good idea.
So for you, there's a comment here from Kiko as far as what would be the best startup kit or set that you think for area surveys then? If someone were just to start now and they want to get their Dronelink plan and they want to get their drone, what do you recommend? So
I don't think you can go wrong with a Mini. I mean, the Mini it's $500. It's a great little drone. It's lightweight. It honestly, it won't cause a lot of damage. Even when it crashes, they're relatively easy to fix if it does break. It's not going to break the bank if you do lose it. I have always told people that if they want to get started, there are always people selling old Phantom 4s and Phantom 3s. This is an awesome drone. These are rock solid. You can probably find these on Craigslist if you scout it out. Make sure there's no cracks in the frame. For $500-600 as well. The Mavic, the old Mavic, and I had a Mavic before I got my Mavic 2. My old Mavic was an awesome drone as well. The Mavic 2s are awesome. So it all depends on what you're looking to spend. The only minor thing that I'd ever caution you about if you really want to do Dronelink is there is a Mavic 2 Air, which is the latest drone that came out from DJI. That is honestly an awesome drone. DJI hasn't released the SDK for it yet. So Dronelink, Litchi, all those guys, nobody supports the Mavic 2 Air yet. We're hoping that DJI will release that soon. But anyway, anything like that, I think is fine. I would obviously not recommend go out and buy a Inspire 2. I would I wouldn't even get a Phantom 4, or maybe even you can get a Mavic and get an old Phantom 3 Pro, and you'll be flying and having a blast.
So that Inspire, you mentioned about the Inspire, how much does that drone run? It looks like something from Skynet.
Yeah, no, it's and if you Google it, you'll see what makes it really cool is the legs literally just kind of go like this. They're amazing. It's an amazing machine. So I actually am not sure exactly what they're selling for now, but like I bought it. It was $4,000, and you're buying lenses for it and propellers, and the case alone was $500-600, and the batteries are $250-300. So it's a different realm of power. The flexibility, the reason why it's being used by people who do movies and higher end videography is it allows you to put different lenses on. You can actually put a zoom lens on there. I had used it for some shoots that I had that really required very, very specific images, typically with sunrise and sunsets. But honestly, again, my Mavic 2 is my go-to. It covers everything. The images that come off it are rock solid. You can't go wrong. If you're sitting there with $500-600 and you find somebody selling a Mavic 2 Pro for $1,000-1,200, and you've got you don't mind spending the $500-600, get a Mavic 2 Pro. You'll never regret it. So it's an awesome drone.
Very cool. I'm going to just go through a couple of questions here. Rapid fire. Cliff, does your dedicated Android use Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, or do you need so I do have a SIM card in that one for that particular one. So I know some people are probably going to ask, like, in an emergency situation, if the cellular grid was down, would you still be able to use Dronelink with your drone?
So it needs to have connectivity between you can offload the mission to your device, and then the device will control the drone. So as long as you need to have internet access initially to download the mission onto your device, your iPad or your iPhone, and then the iPhone will control the drone. So you don't need to have internet connectivity to fly as long as the mission is loaded onto your drone.
Okay, so if someone were to have a dedicated a cheap phone, or a phone that runs a Dronelink with their DJI Mavic Mini, they have it already set up on the drone, and something bad happens, even if the cellular grid's down, they could and if as long as it's downloaded on that mobile device, they'd still be able to take it out in an emergency and survey the neighborhood or something like that.
Yeah, and actually, just as an interesting thing, it was actually something that I didn't even realize was true. But we've had people have asked if I'm flying this thing and the software actually crashes. So I'm sitting there and I had somebody that told me their iPad crashed. So they were sitting there and they were flying, the iPad crashed. And what actually happens is the drone freezes in the air, just stops. So now you're like, what do I do? The interesting thing is, as long as the controller is still working, is still on, you can still fly the drone, and you can still push the return to home button on the controller, and it will come back even if your iPad is gone. Now, if you drop your controller, it crashes and breaks, return to home will be kicked off on this thing. It'll fly back to you anyway. So it's cool. I don't want to say it's idiot proof, but it's pretty idiot proof. The biggest advice I always tell people, particularly with autonomous flight, with anything, is make sure that you've got your return to home altitude set high enough. The biggest problem that I've ever seen people have is that they fly behind something and then they set the return to altitude lower than the height of the thing they're behind. So picture a tower like this, and the drone flies behind the tower. It loses connectivity. It tries to kick in return home, so it goes up, and then it doesn't know what to do. So it crashes into thing and falls. So those are the type of crashes that I've seen happen, where people, you just don't do that. Don't fly behind towers. And if you are experimenting with that, set the return home altitude well above anything that you're flying around, so you won't, whether it's a tree or tower or anything else, so you won't run into that problem.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, totally makes sense. This question, let's see, Ben seems to like this. What's the typical charging time for a mini and next larger drone? Those mini batteries, I don't think they take too long for me to charge, but I have several of them. So for a larger drone like that, what's like the average charge time?
So it varies a little bit. Like I know, like a lot of them have like triple chargers. Like the Mini, I've got something where I plug 3 batteries into it, and I think it takes an hour and a half or 2 hours to charge up all 3 batteries. The Mavic 2, if I get something that will charge 4 batteries at once. I'm not even sure how long. I mean, it's probably 45 minutes to an hour, depending upon how depleted you put the batteries down to 10-15%. You get 4 of them. I'll usually set it next to me, and it'll take 3-4 hours to charge up all my batteries. The Inspire batteries take longer. And I would say the Phantom 4s are probably right in the middle.
And you mentioned that some new features that are going to be coming with Dronelink down the road is, one, having the flight and the camera control be kind of separated, where you could have it go down a path and then control the camera if you wanted to survey a thing. And then you also mentioned about the kind of a follow me type feature. In relation to the follow me, have you ever chased a car? How fast would it go with your go-to drone?
So If you go to autopilot, you can see some videos that because I did all the videos for autopilot as well, and I worked with the same guy. We have video of us chasing a car with an Inspire 2, going probably 30-40 miles an hour down a road. So this guy will go 45 miles an hour, in full.
Wow.
So it's this one not so much. In chase mode, it's fast. We've experimented with it at pretty high speeds. I think the interesting thing is there's two types of follows. There's what's called active track follow, where it's actually finding you compared to the contrast of who you are to your background, and then following you, ideally identifying who you are as a person or a car and following that device. And then there's GPS-based follow, where it's actually following the GPS location of the controller or the iPad. That type of GPS follow is what I miss most. I've done my share of videos from a boat where I've had the drone chase me in a boat or fly around a boat. I can show you videos of that I've done, probably going similar 30, 35 miles an hour in a boat, and having it chase me and orbit around me as the boat's continuing along, which is incredible footage. So yeah, it'll keep up with you. It's pretty amazing, and that functionality hopefully is coming in the next month, 2 months max. And then again, that ability to control the camera when the drone is flying autonomously is my other big wish.
Yeah, so that's cool. So I had a question earlier that I had was for any new features that we should start to get excited about with Dronelink. So it seems like one of them is kind of like a follow me. Two is the independent control of the camera and the flight, and then what we just mentioned over here. Anything else that people should keep an eye out to coming out from Dronelink?
The biggest question that I get a million times a day is the offline waypoint. So can I do something where the mission literally gets loaded onto the drone, so that if it loses connectivity with the drone, it would continue along with the waypoint mission? My quick answer to that is it'll never come for the Mini, but we actually had that for autopilot. So we're looking at doing that for the Mavic 2 and the Inspire and the Phantom 4 users. So I think there is actually a Trello board where users can go in and upvote features that they want versus the other features, and we use that to drive our roadmap. So again, if there's features that you want, I would recommend you go there and check it out. But I think the features that are in biggest demand are always the active track follow, the GPS follow, and that kind of that focus mode where the drone is flying autonomously and you're able to focus. Actually, there's a couple versions of it. You're flying manually and you're able to look at it, and you can control the camera, and then the reverse, which is what I call focus mode, where you're flying around wherever you want to fly, and the camera keeps looking at an item, whether it's stationary or moving. So that's the other one that I miss most from the autopilot days, is the ability. So if I had GPS lock on a car or a person or a bike or whatever it's going to be, if I could fly manually around, and no matter where I was flying, the drone would automatically yaw and point the camera at the person, and keep them in focus or keep them in view, which is that always made for incredible footage.
Yeah, sounds awesome. We're talking with Eric from Dronelink. I hope that you guys have been enjoying this live stream. I think we just have a couple more minutes over here. Some final questions. Is this going to be uploaded afterwards? I'm very late. You are not too late, because it will be uploaded to YouTube. So if you're coming late to this live stream because it's a Friday night, make sure you could rewatch it, and you just won't be able to ask Eric any live questions because it'll be long over. But so let's see. I saw that before when I was kind of looking into this particular stream and talking with you. Again, it's super exciting to talk to you because I've watched a lot of your videos to learn how to use Dronelink. I see that you do a lot of different things. It says that you're the CEO of CloudView Productions, and you do some other things as well. Do you have any other things that we should do quick shout outs on this particular stream?
I wear a couple different hats. My work with, full disclosure, I'm not a full-time employee for Dronelink. I've been working with the CEO of Dronelink for years, and I've been doing it kind of as a side hustle, and something that it's just a passion of mine. I like doing it. Similarly, the CloudView is my own little aerial videography business that I again do on the side and weekends. I have a job that tends to pay my mortgage and my bills. That's what I do during the week. But my shout out would be if you're looking for any type of training or work. I love doing this type of stuff. I enjoy talking about it. So it's what keeps me involved with Dronelink and all these other circles and groups of people.
Yeah. I'm just going to do rapid fire questions while we're wrapping this one up. This one's from North Tacoma. This is, can I run Dronelink directly from the Mavic 2 smart controller, or do I need an additional device?
You can use a smart controller because the smart controller is really just an Android device. So you can load Dronelink onto a smart controller. Yes.
Cool. Rapid fire. All right, rapid fire. Can this tech apply to densely wooded areas, or would the drone default to flight above treetops? Thinking about this for trail patrol rather than cityscape suburbia.
I'd say no. Dronelink definitely not. And I would say the DJI drones, for the most part, are not as good at avoiding small branches and trees. They have some degree of obstacle avoidance. Definitely not the Mini. The latest Mavic 2 Air, I've seen some videos where it seems to do a relatively good job of working its way through trees. Not great. I have another drone, which is in the other room, called the Skydio 2, which if you search that out online, that's intended for that type of incredible follow. You know, I've flown it and watched it literally just avoid trees, and it'll fly, chase somebody on a bike. It's pretty amazing drone, but it's not doing necessarily autonomous flight. It's following. Yeah. It's more of a follow thing than a waypoint type tool.
Let's see. This is this question's kind of funny. I found a drone in my yard and put signs out to find the owner. Nobody came forward. What could I do with this drone?
What it depends on what type of drone it is, but if it's one of these, you could probably buy the
Dronelink. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean the reality is you could buy. You know, you could find, if you really can't find anybody, these will pair to a controller. So you can, there's enough people that have crashed these, they probably have the controller. You could buy the controller, and now you've got yourself a drone. There's a 2-second process you got to go through to pair it. So if it's a DJI drone, you can probably do that. If it's, you know, a smaller freebie type drone, then you got to figure out what type of model it is and see if you can find a controller that it'll work with.
Yeah. Well, cool. Eric, I really appreciate you dropping by over here. Let me I know Bernie's been making sure everyone's in line over there. So Bernie, welcome to the stream. I think we got some super chats for your drone funds, and hopefully you'll be putting Dronelink on that once we get that fund. So if you guys want to contribute super chats, it's going to get Bernie a DJI Mavic Mini so he can put Dronelink on it.
I need a drone.
Do you have any final questions for Eric? Because he's East Coast time. I know it's late, and it's a Friday night.
You know, he already answered all my questions that I already posted on the chat, so we're good.
I don't think it'd be, you know, definitely check out dronelink.com. Join there's an official user group page. Feel free to join that. We also have a forum that you can link to from the page. We actually prefer as much as possible to have any technical questions go to the forum, only because we track it. Facebook is delightful, but we find our forum to be a little bit better. But we do have the user group for those that prefer to be in Facebook, and then there's a bunch of other groups that have been sprouting up, which we fully support and like to see other users find new uses for, which is great. But post your questions there. You know, feel free to give us a shout out. I mean, I was excited to come across Cliff here just because I thought the use of it, you know, as a search and rescue type tool is interesting. It's a great use of the product.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much. So again, make sure you guys support, if you guys have a drone, set up Dronelink on it if it's supported with Dronelink. If you don't have a drone, consider getting the DJI Mavic Mini and getting Dronelink on it, because it's really cool and just open up so many doors for emergency preparedness purposes. I have some links in the description box below. I have links to Dronelink, and Dronelink's available they have a YouTube page, they have their website, they have some fairly inexpensive plans. It's just a one-time $20 fee. So that's less than it would cost for if I was taking Bernie to a bar. So that's, yeah, that's expensive. That's, so again, I'd like to thank Eric. Thank you so much for coming on this live stream, for chatting with the audience. It was a great talk, and you were able to dive into so many different things and answer so many questions from the audience. So I really appreciate it. I hope that people enjoy watching this live stream as it lives on YouTube land for as long as they keep the channel on here. So.
Great, guys. Appreciate it. Happy flying. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. See you guys.
Take care.
See ya.
Let's see the outro.